300,000 years ago, you would have been food, not metaphorically, actual food. For leopards, mostly. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. We had exactly one thing going for us, and it was hidden inside our skulls. This is the story of how the snack became the apex predator, invented the spreadsheet, and started arguing with strangers on the internet. Humanity's first 290,000 years can be summarized in one sentence. We walked around looking for berries. That's it. That's 97% of human history. No pyramids, no kings, no taxes. Just small bands of people, maybe 50 at a time, slowly out-surviving every other human species on the planet. Around 60,000 years ago, we walked out of Africa. And then we didn't stop. We crossed Asia. We then reached Australia, which required crossing open ocean. Stone Age people built boats and sailed toward a horizon they could not see past, on faith that something was there. Later, we walked across a frozen land bridge into the Americas and filled 2 continents on foot. Before we invented the wheel, we had already conquered the planet. And yes, there were others, Neanderthals, Denisovans, hobbits, an actual 1-meter-tall human species in Indonesia. We met all of them. And one by one, they all disappeared. They were people, and the only species on Earth that still remembers they existed is us. Around 70,000 years ago, something clicked in our brains. We started making art, jewelry, and crucially, stories, fiction. The ability to believe in things that don't exist is weirdly our superpower. Enemies, karma, superstitions, pride. We are the only creatures that will die for a flag it will never see, a god it cannot meet, a nation of strangers it will never know, bound together by nothing more solid than a story we agreed to believe. Around 12,000 years ago, someone in the Middle East looked at a stalk of wheat and thought, what if I just stayed here? The agricultural revolution sounds like an upgrade. It was a trap. Hunter-gatherers worked maybe 30 hours a week and ate a varied diet. Farmers worked sunrise to sunset, ate the same gruel every day, lived next to their own sewage, and caught diseases from their animals. Skeletons from early farming villages are shorter, sicker, and more worn down than their ancestors. But farming had one killer feature. It made more humans, and more humans beat healthier humans every single time. Population goes up, there's no going back. We domesticated wheat, and honestly, wheat domesticated us. Surplus food meant some people didn't have to farm. So we invented new jobs, priest, soldier, king, and the most consequential one, the guy who counts the grain. Writing wasn't invented for poetry. The oldest documents we have are receipts. Civilization began with accounting. Let that humble you. From here, history hits fast forward. Around 3,500 BC, in Sumer, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates in modern Iraq, villages swell into something new, cities. Uruk holds maybe 50,000 people. For the first time ever, humans are living among thousands of strangers, and that breaks everything that worked for small bands. So Sumer has to invent the operating system for stranger-scale society. Writing, contracts, courts, organized religion, and the 7-day week. Meanwhile, in the Indus Valley, cities like Mohenjo-Daro build grid streets and indoor plumbing 4,000 years before London has either, and leave behind almost no evidence of kings or war. We still can't read their writing, an entire civilization's voice, sitting there, waiting. Egypt invents the pyramid, and the cover-your-walls in propaganda genre. China invents paper, gunpowder, and the civil service exam, then aces it for 2,000 years straight. In the Americas, completely cut off, the Maya independently invent writing and the concept of zero, proof that civilization isn't a fluke. Run the human experiment anywhere, and it builds the same things. And then, around 1177 BC, it almost all ends. In the space of a few decades, nearly every great power of the Bronze Age, the Hittites, Mycenaean Greece, mighty cities across the eastern Mediterranean, collapses. Trade dies, cities burn. In Greece, writing itself is forgotten for 400 years. People lived in the ruins of buildings they no longer knew how to build, telling stories about a golden age of heroes. Civilization, it turns out, is not a ratchet. It can go backwards. It has. But it restarts. Greece invents democracy for about 10% of the population, but it's a start. Rome takes Greece's ideas, adds concrete and roads, and builds an empire so iconic that men are still thinking about it at the gym. Religions go global: Buddhism, Christianity, Islam. Ideas now travel faster than armies, and they conquer more permanently. Here's the part that often gets skipped. When Rome falls, civilization doesn't pause. It relocates. In Baghdad, the House of Wisdom rescues Greek science and pushes past it. Algebra, from the Arabic al-Jabr, hospitals, the numerals you use every day. India hands them the zero. Centuries later, all of it flows back into Europe. No single civilization carried the flame. We passed it hand to hand, language to language, for 5,000 years. It flickered. It went dark in whole regions for centuries. It never went out. That relay is the actual story of history. Everything else is borders. Then the Mongols connect Asia and Europe the hard way. Trade routes open. So do plague routes. The Black Death deletes a third of Europe in 4 years, and the survivors inherit higher wages and a suspicion that the old authorities don't know everything. That suspicion becomes the Renaissance. Then the printing press, the original viral content machine. Within decades, Europe is drowning in books, arguments, and revolutions. Europeans stumble into the Americas looking for India, and what follows is the most lopsided exchange in history. Eurasian germs kill up to 90% of Native Americans. Silver, sugar, and slavery wire the planet into one brutal economy. Then, around 1750, on a rainy island obsessed with coal, someone bolts a steam engine to everything that doesn't move and several things that do. The Industrial Revolution is the biggest event since farming, and it rides on an idea from the century before: the scientific method. Test things. Be willing to be wrong. It took us 300,000 years to get there, and it changed more than every empire combined. Once people question nature, they start questioning kings. A new idea detonates across the late 1700s. Governments get their power from the consent of the governed, not from God, not from bloodlines, from you. All men are created equal, a sentence that outgrew its authors and has spent 250 years holding them, and everyone since, to account. For all of history, the average human lived on today's equivalent of $2 a day. Then the line goes vertical. Cities explode. We invent trains, electricity, germ theory, vaccines, and the weekend. And quietly, with no anthem and no holiday, the most common human experience of all disappears. For 300,000 years, nearly half of all children died. Burying a child wasn't a tragedy that struck the unlucky. It was the ordinary grief of almost every parent who ever lived, the handprint lifted to the cave wall included. Today, 96% survive. The single best thing that ever happened, and there is no monument to celebrate it anywhere. And for the first time, huge numbers of people look at slavery, an institution as old as cities themselves, and decide it has to end. Not because it stopped being profitable, because it was wrong. We also invent industrial-scale war. World War I kills 20 million and ends 3 empires. 20 years later, bigger. World War II kills over 60 million, ends with 2 cities erased by single bombs, and leaves us holding weapons that could end the whole story. And in the middle of it, the Holocaust. 6 million Jews murdered not in battle, but by timetable, train schedules, ledgers, lists. The world stood in the ashes and swore 2 words: never again. 80 years later, the UN's own investigators concluded that genocide is being committed in Gaza, live-streamed to the very world that made the promise. And here's what never makes the war documentaries. Smallpox killed 300 million people in the 20th century alone, more than all its wars combined. It had hunted us for 3,000 years. We can see its scars on Egyptian mummies. So thousands of health workers, American and Soviet, at the height of the Cold War, tracked it across deserts and war zones, village by village, child by child. In 1977, in Somalia, it infected its last human. He survived. It didn't. We hunted our oldest predator to extinction. It exists today in exactly 2 freezers on Earth. When someone tells you humanity can't cooperate, that's the receipt. And in 1969, 12 years into knowing how to put anything in orbit at all, we stood on the moon. 400,000 people worked on it. The computer that landed them had less computing power than the wireless earbuds of today. The rest, 250,000 miles of vacuum, closed by pure human grit and arithmetic, done with pen on paper. There are footprints up there, no wind, no rain. They'll still be crisp in 1,000,000 years, likely outlasting every building on Earth. A species that began by pressing handprints onto cave walls ended up pressing boot prints into another world. Same instinct, same message. We were here. Then we wired the planet together. The internet puts most of human knowledge, the whole relay, every civilization's contribution into the pocket of anyone with a phone. A kid in Vietnam today has better access to information than the US president did in 1990. And now you're here, a berry-searching ape, holding a glass rectangle that contains all human knowledge, using it to watch a video about yourself. The next chapter, AI, gene editing, whatever's after the rectangle, is being written right now by us, by people no wiser and no less capable than the ones who crossed an ocean they couldn't see across. One last fact, and it's about you. Every ancestor you have, every single one through the ice, the famines, the plagues, the wars, survived long enough to pass life forward. Billions of lines ended. Yours never did. Not once. In 300,000 years. And it gets stranger. If any one of them had taken a different path home, married someone else, died one winter sooner, someone would exist in your place, but not you. The odds against you, exactly you, are a number so large, mathematics doesn't bother naming it. The universe ran that lottery once. You are not just lucky, you are luck itself. You are the current holder of an unbroken chain, the handprint on the cave wall, the flame passed from Baghdad to Florence, the boot print on the moon. All of it crossed ice ages, plagues, and the fall of every empire that ever stood, just to arrive, this very moment, at you.